it may be splitting hairs, but in the domain I work in, when we're doing lots of scientific compute, we care about that. A lot of times you won't. Launch instances, we're going to talk about spot instances in a little bit, but I'm using an on-demand instance here. Kernel disk, kernel ID, and RAM ID, I put this list out here because if you're a normal Windows guy, you look at this and say, oh, what? You really don't have to worry about this. This is good, really good for the Linux guys, so you can actually swap out your kernels and you get certain patches and so forth, but you have to know what this catalog list means. Every time I've done it for Windows boxes, I just use the leave default and it's been fine. So we say leave default, you can enable or disable CloudWatch. You pick your key pair. Now this used to be not hard, but harder. They used to have to do, and this is sort of a hurdle for, particularly for Windows guys getting started. They were like, you have to download these tools, and it wasn't really clear, and you had to do this, create a PEM file and all of this stuff, and you're like, I just want to hit the go button, right? Where's the start button? They made it really easy now. And if you don't, like you see, it's got populated my list here with one. If you don't have one, you create a new key pair, type in the password and the name, and they say go indent down in the file. It's very, very simple. But that is very important to do. And if you're not using the website, say you're using ElasticFox, you can actually spin up an instance without having the keys. They'll let you do it. But if you do that, you cannot access it. You'll see why here in a minute. So you can basically get charged for a box that you started but can't get to, which is suboptimal. The security group. This list is basically your firewall rules. Okay, and this is predefined based on the instance type you choose. And so I chose, in this case, a Windows box, and I chose not the default Windows box, but sort of, they call it the Windows Starter box, which has SQL Express and it has IIS installed on it and so forth. So they sort of predefine the rules here. You can change them, you can focus them. Do make sure that you allow RDP to it. Obviously, you can change it, you put in your IP address or your IP range, but again, if you don't, you'll have no way to access the box, which is problematic or suboptimal, I guess. So I give it a name, blah, 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 hit next. This is summary, tells me what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a server box, 32-bit, SQL Server Express, IIS and ASP.NET 3.5, which is great because in real life this has taken all of about 2.5 minutes, right? So this goes really pretty fast. So if you're, as a dev, if you're just wanting to spin up a box and say, I just need to kick the tires on something, this is a great way to do it and get going fast. Hit next and go. These are now launching. If you click the View Instances page, you get something like this, and it'll say pending. So this is the instance I just started. It's all good. Now, if you right-click on it and say Get Windows Password, this is the great thing. You're like, okay, I'm ready to go. It says it's running. If you do it too fast, you'll get this. Okay, this is where that 2-minute thing is a little false. In reality, the very first time you create an instance, it's sort of an order of 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes in experience. Now, once you've created an instance and shut it down, subsequent times when you start it up, it actually goes much faster. But that very first time, it's basically doing sysprep and it's laying everything out. Subsequent times, it's just booting from the SAN, so you don't have that delay. So right now, I've done everything. I've said go. Once you wait your time, you click that option again, you get a form like this. This is where your key becomes important. You actually have to paste, you have to open up that key file, that PEM file in Notepad, paste the guts in here, and it will then pass you the Windows password to get into the box. So here you can see I've got an instance with a really ugly DNS name. My username is administrator, and that's my encrypted password. And yes, I've changed it. So don't try that. Everything's good. One of the things to remember, though, is in contrast to a platform as a service model, this is IaaS. So you own the box, you own patching, you own code deployment, and everything. So when you get this box, the first thing you got to do is run Windows Update. You get all your patches. It's same with any of the Linux boxes. You have to patch it, get it updated. But I ran it, deployed, I ran the Microsoft Web Platform installer, deploy NAP to it. It's very easy, click through. So here's again my URL. You can use CNAMEs to change that. So if you're going to bring up an instance, leave it up, you can use CNAMEs in DNS to give a pretty name for your site. That's great. Here's that, and then we can, here's an RDP session into that same box, which if the network holds up, and I click on the box. Here's that box. I can come in, insert properties. You can see it's 1.66 gigs of RAM, 32 blocks, running on that. Nothing fancy. It is Data Center Edition, which is interesting, but doesn't really change anything. So I have a box in the cloud. You can open up, you can choose how you want to get files in and out. If you want to do FTP or use some other mechanism to get files and code deployed. Very, very easy to get a box sort of from nothing to started and running. Even including patching and web platform installer time, sort of sub-hour in time. Which, again, depending on how you're using it, that's pretty phenomenal. Additional features, a couple of things that are interesting just to be aware of. Bring your own license program. This is something that Amazon, it's currently in beta, so you have to sort of sign up for it. But if your company has an enterprise license agreement with Microsoft already, they've got this option where you can bring your own license. So Daniel will probably tell me I'm doing this wrong, but essentially, my understanding of the EA license is you have a certain number of, or you pay for ahead of time a certain number of server licenses or n number of licenses. They will let you, in conjunction with Microsoft, will let you sort of transfer or mark, say, these 4 server licenses as being in the cloud in Amazon, and I can do some sort of handshake between everybody, and everybody knows that these licenses are now in the cloud. And subsequently, they won't charge you the Windows licensing premium on your instances. So all of your Windows, by default, a Windows license compared to a Linux license, there's a premium of a couple of cents per hour per compute instance. That will go away if you use this program, which is interesting because it sort of makes it a little more accessible to your enterprise customer. The instance types are very interesting. So what we just walked through was creating an on-demand instance. And this is sort of the easiest to understand. Hey, I'm sitting at my desk, and I decide I need a server now. I would click through, click, here's my credit card, bam, I've got an instance, right? Very easy to understand. I pay 8 cents or 12 cents an hour per CPU. Everything's great. A while back, they came up with what's called spot instances. This is intriguing to me. It works really well if you're doing sort of batch processing and you don't care about exactly when it happens. You just want it done in a certain period of time. And again, this would be a case that's really good for sort of the S3-based auto-configuring boot launch. The way this works is you say the standard price is 8 cents an hour for an instance. You say, I don't want to pay that. I'm willing to pay 6 cents an hour. What they'll do is it's basically sort of a commodities market that they've set up. And they'll look at their load, they'll look at their available nodes, and if their demand is lower and they have more nodes open, they'll step down the price of their nodes. And if it hits down to your price, the price that you've done, they'll actually spin up your node and run it for the period of time that you want, and then drop it off when your node's done. So the price will fluctuate within a band. So if you say, I don't care that it doesn't get done for a couple of days, or maybe it can run at 2 in the morning, and maybe other people aren't using as many nodes. The spot instance, market-based driven pricing is sort of interesting. The reserved instances are basically, I'm paying ahead. So I'm going to, rather than pay as I'm using it, a sort of post-consumption, I want to pay a lower price, but I'm giving you my money ahead of time, and then I can use it as I want. So it's sort of buying, it's basically whose account is your money gaining interest in. So if it's in yours, you're going to pay more for your actual use. If you give it to them, so it can sit in their bank account, they'll give you a lower price on the instance. Code walkthrough. So this is what everyone cares about, right? So we talked about, we'll walk through some of these things. So this was running when we came in.